All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to be in the 147-pound division and the 168-pound division, where Gary Russell Jr., the future Hall of Fame featherweight, who is coming back to fight soon, can't wait to see him back in the ring, has something to say about that will shock y'all who think everybody's a Terence Crawford hater, about Terence Crawford being able to beat, but what he would have a biggest problem with, which is Jaron Boots Ennis. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to be in the 147-pound division, also the 168-pound division at the same time. 154 if you want to talk about the weight that Jermell Charlo is the undisputed champion in. And we're going to talk about something Gary Russell Jr. had to say that I 100% agree with, because I said it, I have said it, and now to have it backed up by a Hall of Fame level fighter, you know, I'm about to tell you about it. But before I get into the details of it, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you are a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you so much for your continued support. It really does mean a lot to the channel. But let's get into this, because this is a very fun conversation for me. Terence Crawford, in my opinion, is the best fighter in the world. He is the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. That is my perception. It has been my perception that that has been the case for a lot of years now, all the way from the time that Andre Ward left the sport. I have never thought that Canelo Alvarez was as good a fighter as Terence Crawford. Still do not believe that Canelo Alvarez is as good a fighter as Terence Crawford in a pound-for-pound sense. And as of right now, where Terence Crawford is in his career and Canelo Alvarez is in his career, I think if Terence Crawford does what he says he wants to do, which is move up to 168 pounds and fight the winner of Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo, if the winner of that fight is Canelo Alvarez, I will pick Terence Crawford at 168 pounds to beat Canelo, because for a variety of reasons, of which I will explain through the words of Gary Russell Jr., who gave an interview to Mill City Boxing. Shout out to Mill City Boxing. If you do not follow Mill City Boxing, find Mill City Boxing and watch the great interviews that this man does on his channel with top boxers. Does it on a very, very consistent basis. Something that I don't do over here. So ain't no need for me not to share and acknowledge the shine that young man got going on over there on his channel. Congratulations, that's great work that you're doing. Out of the mouth of Gary Russell Jr. Gary Russell Jr. says that Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford will have a much easier time with Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo than he will have with Jaron Ennis. And that right now, not for Terence, because if Terence did it, it wouldn't be stupid. But if his team wanted him to do it, his team would be stupid by putting him in the ring with Jaron Ennis, because Jaron Ennis, he says at best, he implies, the way I read it, these were not words that left his mouth, was at least a 50-50 fight. But he said with Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo, he will have an easier fight with them. So that tells me he would favor him, because he says it's a 50-55. His answer to the question, you think it's a 50-50 fight between Terence and Jaron, was F-U-C-K, yes. And the reason that he said it was like, look, man, unlike he said, look, man, he's bigger, he's longer. He will most definitely have no problem punching with him and fighting with him. Jaron Ennis will have no problems fighting with Canelo Alvarez, exchanging with Terence Crawford. And he said, unlike Jermell and Canelo, Jaron Ennis's quickness and reflexes are right there with Terence Crawford's. Much closer to Terence Crawford's than Canelo Alvarez is, and Jermell Charlo's would be. Now, why would that be? Not difficult. It is age. By the time a fight with Terence Crawford happens with Jaron Ennis will be 27 years old, and Terence Crawford will be 36 years old at the least. And that is, if there was ever a time in Terence Crawford's career where his reflexes were faster than Jaron Ennis's is. Jaron Ennis is a exceptional athlete. And there are people that are, I don't know how many people in boxing are once in a lifetime athletes, but I know there are some that are just really, I would consider, no matter what sport they did, and within the sport of boxing is probably the way to say it, within the sport of boxing, I would consider to be super athletes. Jaron Ennis is about as close to a super athlete in the sport as I've seen, other than along with, I think Terence Crawford fits into that. Floyd Mayweather Jr. fits into that. Believe it or not, Vasily Lomachenko at a younger age, I think Vasily Lomachenko fit into that. Gervonta Davis fits into that. Just a really, really explosive and exceptional athleticism in Gervonta Davis. And Jaron Ennis looks like he is right up in there. And I think, just like Gary Russell Jr. thinks, that the fight with Jaron Ennis would be more difficult for Terence Crawford than it would be on paper, more difficult for Terence Crawford than the fight with Canelo Alvarez would be. And because primarily of the speed and the size. A lot of people, when they think about size in boxing, they always just go to what weight class the guy's fighting in. But to break it to you, all of three guys that we're talking about, that is Terence Crawford, Jaron Ennis, and Jermell Charlo, that and Canelo Alvarez, that Jaron Ennis is probably about the same size as Jermell Charlo, but he's bigger than Canelo Alvarez, and he's bigger than Terence Crawford is. And the way that the base that you can understand this with is, what weight class did they start at when they originally turned professional? Where were they when they turned professional? Not when they got certain skill sets and they got the ability to move up and fight a guy here and fight a guy there, fight a guy here, fight a guy there. Jermell Charlo, for example, I do believe started at 154 pounds, the same weight class Canelo was in. Those guys started in. Those guys are basically the same size. Jaron Ennis has fought at 154 pounds a bunch of times. And he is more than big enough to be at that weight class right now. He's just young, very disciplined, and is able to stay at 147 pounds. But the man is about 5'10" with a very long reach. He's a tall, rangy welterweight that could easily be at 154. Terence Crawford also started at 140 pounds. Big misnomer about when people talk about his career is that he started at 135. No, he didn't. He didn't fight at 135 till the 20th fight of his career, and then fought at 135 in his 20th, 21st, and he won a championship in his 22nd and stayed there for a few fights, then went back up to 140. So, I'm trying to tell y'all now, y'all better listen to Gary Russell Jr. about this stuff with Jaron Ennis. And some of y'all, just because y'all don't like me, just sit around and wait for this dude to get knocked out, because that's what you're waiting to see. You're not waiting to see his skills. You're not waiting to see him get hit. You're not waiting to see him beat somebody big. You're not waiting for none of that. You're waiting for him to lose so you can tell somebody, I told you so. But I don't think you're going to see that for a while, barring some exceptional circumstance going on. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out.